The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leadership Podcast. It's another edition of Nigeria Decide on the big issue. And of course, just like we have always promised you, it is election week, and we promise to keep you tapped with happenings around the country's political landscape, at least to get you informed of things that are happening. And of course, as from tomorrow to Saturday, we'll be focused on live coverage of the election. And we do our best to keep you informed about issues as they pop up. But today's edition of Nigeria Decide is still analytical. And of course, the big issue of the day on Nigeria Decide 2023 is the National Assembly goals and the imperative of electing the right lawmakers. Well, as usual, with me here in the studio are our very vibrant in-house analyst. We have the very, very powerful political pundit here with us, Chibuzo Kaibe, and of course, Sunday Sua, another political analyst of great repute. Now, as it is, the campaigning, the electioneering process, all the while throughout the campaign season had bordered on the presidency. And of course, we have always heard reports about the presidency, issues pertaining to presidential election, and perhaps governorship election. But one issue that has not actually come up, or is not often heard, is the idea of electing our lawmakers that will be making our laws, legislating for us in the next dispensation. That has been one issue that had always been in the background. And it's as if Nigerians are not bothered about who becomes their lawmakers the way they bother about who become their president or their governor. Today we'll be looking at issues to consider before Nigerians throng the polling unit on Saturday to cast their vote. In the past 2 or 3 dispensations, we have seen what has become the National Assembly Nigeria has, especially in the Red Chamber, the Senate. We have always had lawmakers who most analysts consider as spent forces, a situation where governors will retire after their 2 term in office to the National Assembly as lawmakers, federal lawmakers. How has this helped the country? And how has it impacted positively? And this is coming against the backdrop of the fact that what we have been having in the past years has been rubber stamp legislature that are always prone to do the biddings of the presidency. And if that must stop, it will stop from the ballot box, depending on how Nigerians cast their vote. And that is what we'll be looking now. Isua, you are just close to the country's federal legislature, and you've seen it all the way it happens there. Most Nigerians have complained about the kind of law legislature we have, a rubber stamp. We've not really seen, I think what really got close to it was the 9th assembly. Is it the 9th or the 8th assembly? 8th assembly. Where although we know that it is for their own political interest, we saw the likes of Senate President Saraki, Dogara, and Dino Melaye putting some show of opposition at the federal legislature. And I think he gave Buhari a run for his money in his first term. But since this National Assembly came up, it had always been carry go for the presidency. And Nigerians, most of them who are enlightened, say it is because of the crop of lawmakers we elect. Isua, what do you have to say as Nigerians go for the National Assembly polls on Saturday. How can we change this narrative to stop this idea of rubber stamp National Assembly?
It's difficult to change the narrative now.
You think so?
Yes, because
Nothing can be done.
the people that got the ticket to contest for these senatorial positions, most of them, about 15 of them, are former governors. And so, if you check that number, there are people who are experienced, but because governors, wanted the ticket, so these people could not get a return ticket. And legislating is all about experience. Now, if you don't have the experience, even if you are a governor, you are this, you are that, once you have an experience, it will help. It will not just be for your benefit or for the benefit of your constituency, but the country will benefit from the kind of laws that you will be contributing in making. And so now you are seeing a National Assembly where about 15 former governors may be returning if they are elected, you know, and you have a lot of other senators who will be first timers. And so a first timer do not have the courage, to do what is right because the experience is not there. You understand? And a governor who have spent 8 years may have some luggages, you know, may have some things that is hidden. You don't want those things exposed. So he will not have the courage to also confront, the authorities or the powers that be.
Because they will go dust his dossier and show him
Of
that.
course.
What are you saying?
So what I'm saying now is that Nigerians must look at the candidates critically because I did mention about 15 former governors that are contesting. Okay, these former governors are contesting with other different candidates. So just look at the candidate and make sure because I'm not saying that the former governors maybe they are not good, but when it comes to lawmaking, it's a different ballgame. So look for somebody who will stand for you, who will stand for the constituency, and who will stand for the nation. Because without a good law, we will have, a lot of trouble. Now, people have been talking about the present lawmakers. Well, you can look at the circumstance that brought about these present lawmakers. The Senate president, he has been somebody who have been eyeing that Senate presidency for long. And he realized that maybe within his lobbying, he may not be there. So he took his lobbying outside his colleagues and took it to the party. The party adopted him. The party adopted him in 2015, he fell. And the party still presented him to President Muhammadu Buhari, and you know everything that played out. So you don't expect that kind of leadership to confront things that are not normal. Yes, because they will do the bidding of people that install them
there. Thank you very much. It's why we'll come back to that, but I don't agree. I don't agree to the fact that there's nothing Nigerians can do because naturally we know very well that most of these governors turn federal lawmakers always come from the ruling party. They will either be members of the governing APC or they'll be members of the PDP. Have structures at the governors on ground. I feel that in a state where we have an APC governor controlling the state, and then he's the one coming to the Senate, and then we have another lawmaker under the in PD for the PDP. The state, the federal, the senatorial district will look at picking a PDP member who is not who is an opposition and is not a governor instead of the governor of that state. Don't you think that too can influence? So I think Nigeria still have that. What do you think?
Okay, I thought that would
No, it's him. I'm even
no.
I just want you to concur or disagree with me too. Then we now go.
Well, it depends. Unfortunately, legislative elections, either at federal or state levels, have always been more at the mercies of power brokers rather than the people. I put it this way because it is hard for I don't think most Nigerians really have come to really understand what a lawmaker ought to do in a democracy, or the place of the legislature in a democracy. There has to be a proper um, orientation on this, really, because without the legislature, and it's been said over and again, without the legislature, democracy perhaps wouldn't be what it is, wouldn't be robust. The robustness of any democracy is on how vibrant the legislature is. Because the legislature is supposed to be the sum aggregate of voices.
That is even why,
Of the
sorry, I'm
people.
not cutting you.
Yes.
That is even why, if you see there's any military takeover, the very first institution they dissolve
suffers.
is the legislature.
So it's supposed to be the sum aggregate of voices of the people per time, so that it helps to gauge government policies and all of that. And all of that should culminate in how laws are formed. But unfortunately, maybe because we are still, a toddling democracy with regards to the legislative place, we are not getting that right. Such that what we have now is anybody that wants to contest for any of those positions is usually at the mercy of the governor. For instance, the governor decides almost who gets ticket to run for most of these offices that are under his purview. So it shows you again how influential the executive branch has been since 1999. So I think drawing from that, I would want to agree to some extent with what Mr. Iswa has said as relating to what Nigerians can do between now and when the election happens. It will be very, very tough for Nigerians to really, because as it stands now, they'll just vote along party lines. If you're in a place where PDP is quite dominant, you just vote PDP for whoever is there. Because there's no interface in the real sense. I barely see lawmakers come to campaign in the way that somebody running for a governorship seat campaign,
Presidency
or a
campaign.
presidency campaign. So it's just a case of
So the mindset is that it's a done deal.
yes, and to some extent they just carry some bags of rice, do constituency projects, not even the real constituency project. I say why? And even the whole essence of constituency project shouldn't be purely the major function they do. It should be about lawmaking. But because they believe that when you give these people these things, it makes it easy for us to come back to office. So it becomes there's really a need for some level of sensitization and a core understanding of what the lawmakers ought to be doing and how Nigeria should engage that process so that they get the right kind of people to represent them at that level. It comes down to Iswa also pointed out, you need to have very conscientious people who understand and who are really in touch with their people, so that when they want to make laws, they make laws that will impact people really and really reflect the reality on the ground, not just elitist laws that are for their own sakes.
Well, thank you very much. If we come back, I will tell you one experience, recent one in the just concluded, can I say the just concluded campaign, or the campaign that will be concluded by 12 midnight. I will tell you, and that is the FCT lawmaker Philip Aduda, who was almost mocked. They almost stoned him at Apodia and told him how long, brother, to show that Nigerians are even beginning to think what we are saying here. But let's just quickly take a short break, hoping that our viewers will contribute constructively to the conversation on Nigeria Decides. Tell us how they feel too and what they think they should do, because Nigeria Decides is a platform where we would have expected robust engagement with members of the public, the electorate that we are actually talking about. Well, don't go offline. We'll be back in a moment.
sponsorship, and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Dear Nigerians, your vote is your voice. Do not neglect it. Do not trample on it. Never exchange it for anything.
Vote wisely. Say no to violence. The power to create a big change is in our hands, and we should use it responsibly.
Yes, we have had enough. It's time for us to rise up and fight. Fight for our rights. Fight for truth. Fight for salvation.
Do not be intimidated. Your votes are valuable. Do not let anyone buy them or intimidate you into voting a certain way. In this forthcoming election, say no to violence.
The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Are we back?
Yes. Welcome back. We are still on Nigeria Decide in Leadership Podcasts under the big issue. And of course, you heard the message very loud and clear from the Leadership Podcast team that we must vote wisely if we truly make a change, which is actually what we are discussing here about the idea of choosing our federal lawmakers as we go to the polls on Saturday. Isua, yes, Chibuzo tends to be tinkering towards your own line that it's very difficult for Nigerians to make that change at this time moment because it has always been a trend where the vote within party lines. We see lawmakers coming distributing palliatives, some kind of things, motorcycle and call it boreholes, keke napep and call it constituency project. But then I would disagree because it's not always the trend now. In some places, I think Nigerians are becoming wiser. Like recently, the senator representing the FCT, Philip Aduda, who is as old as this current dispensation of democracy that was ushered in 1999. He had been the senator representing the FCT till date, and he will not go because he feels nobody else is qualified to represent the FCT. He's sure he will die there because I think recently we discovered that he's a young man who came at that point that now has gray hair, and yet he will not give up. And now most FCT residents who have been beginning to understand that this is not supposed to be so came out to engage him recently. In Apo here, they said they followed him, stoned him, and were very angry. They didn't want to hear what he said because their mindset is that, why must it be you again? You again? How? For how long? So nobody in FCT. That shows you that Nigerians too are beginning to have that consciousness. And then we now talk of the law, the governors turning lawmaker. You see, this is even one aspect that is annoying most Nigerians now. A governor who ruled the state for 8 years, pocketed the state legislature, turned it to his own, turned the state lawmakers to his own lackeys. And at the end, he dictates for them. The speaker is just nominal. He goes listen to what the governor says, come to sit down, they adopt whatever the governor says to them. That same governor who had not impacted in his state, did not encourage the legislature in his state, is the same governor who wants to come and retire to the National Assembly and sit down there. And just like Chibuzo said, who said, these are people that naturally, with the kind of baggage, you said it, they are carrying. If there is any law that will be made to strengthen the EFCC, or if there is any law that will be made against government policy, tell me how they can be able to make that law. They can be able to influence the executive to take decisions that will be of benefit to Nigerians. Because at the time they make such move, they will go dust their dozy and say, oh, because you came and sat down in this place, in the red chamber, you are relaxing, comfortably and luxuriously. You think we don't know what you did. See your dozy, we'll follow you up. They close their mouth. And then that becomes very annoying. And then I told this, I said it very clearly here. Ordinarily, me, I would have expected that if it's an APC governed state and the governor is an APC governor, by the time he is actually contesting, why not the people in the senatorial district be looking at the opposition? I would rather expect that they go for a PDP senatorial candidate or the Labour Party or NPP, since we have some other two major parties coming to compete with APC and PDP. Wouldn't that be a very best to address this matter than to just say, okay, we follow that global stamp too from our own constituency that is always along party lines?
Well, one thing Nigerians should understand is that, as I've said earlier, it's not about personal benefit. Many people don't even know the role of a lawmaker. Now, the Philip Aduda that you are talking about, many people may not know the role of a lawmaker, and you must know the limitation that politicians have in the Federal Capital Territory. The senatorial position is the highest position anyone can hold
For now.
in the Federal Capital Territory, because
And I think he's even the leader of
there
the
should-
FCT
there-
chapter of the APC, of the party, PDP.
So the issue is that Aduda is the minority leader of the Senate. Now, as a minority leader of the Senate, the people of the FCT, are supposed to benefit from his experience and from that particular position. And being in that particular position, if he has been doing well for them, they are supposed to elect him. Not that to start saying that, is it your father's house? No. Being at the National Assembly is all about experience. If the person is doing well, keep electing him. Tomorrow, who knows, if this government, if his political party make the majority in the Senate, and with the kind of experience he has, they can elect him Senate President. If they elect him Senate President, who benefits? Is it not the people of the FCT? It's the people of the FCT. And Aduda has not been there since 1999. FCT have different senators. Aduda was a vice chairman in AMA, later became the chairman, and moved to represent Buhari/AMA Federal constituency in the House of Representatives. He did that for like 2 times before getting into the Senate, And
But in the Senate, I think that he had been there for like this 16 years or
well, he may be in the Senate for his 3rd term now. Maybe he's looking for 4th time, And if you look at the people that have been
12
there,
years. This would have made it the 16th year.
yes. If you look at the people that have been there, they quite did not understand the politics of FCT as much as Aduda did. Aduda understands the politics of the FCT. And so, if other people are contesting, sometimes the minorities could be vocal. I have never heard a group of people, accusing Aduda of not doing what he's supposed to do at the Red Chamber. I've been there several times where Aduda will be fighting for the people of the FCT, but because he's a lone person, no, they will shoot him down. They will shut him down. They will always shut him down. This issue of mayoral status for the FCT, Aduda have been pushing it. This issue of appointing a minister from the FCT, if they say appoint a minister from the FCT, they are not necessarily saying that it must be an indigene of FCT. No, a resident of FCT, somebody who have the indigenship of FCT, you can appoint such a person minister, because the constitution said that FCT must be treated as a state. And Aduda have been pushing for that. Even Supreme Court have ruled on that the president should treat the FCT as a state. But since 1999, no indigene of FCT have been given a ministerial position. We are not saying that they should give the person a minister of FCT. No. We are not saying that they should appoint an indigene of Abuja as minister. No. All we are saying that look for a qualified person who is a resident of FCT who can do the job and appoint that person, not because of the sake of appointment, but because of the fact that the constitution said that you must treat FCT as a state. So if you are not appointing a minister from FCT, yes.
Honorarily, it's not even about a minister.
A mayor is even a different.
Of the FCT.
No, even if you have a mayor, you must have a minister. Yes, that mayor will serve as a governor. That minister is just like every other state that have a slot that the constitution said that a president must appoint a minister from each state. So you can see now, Aduda have been pushing two things, but at the end of the day, none have come to limelight because he's a lone person. But
In the minority.
if peradventure tomorrow Aduda becomes the Senate president, he would be able to use his experience and use his influence, to ensure that the FCT get it better.
Thank you very
What I'm
much,
saying
Isua.
is that Nigerians must not say, okay, you have been there, you have been there. No, lawmaking is not an executive office. It's an office where, in as much as you are doing well for your people, you can be there for more than 100 years.
Thank you very much. Chibuzo Isua has been able to shoot down that line of thought I brought. And I think he made a valid point, at least making us understand that at least the more you are in the National Assembly or in the legislature, the more experience you become. And he said, no, for Aduda, is considered to adopt. But that will not be said of the incumbent Senate President, Senator Ahmed Lawan, that the Supreme Court now chose to give a ticket of that Yobe North Senatorial District, even when it was very glaring that Machina was the man that was picked. I think Ahmed Lawan did not even contest.
But it's a political party issue.
He did not even contest an election.
It's their party.
He was there for going for the presidency while they were doing all this,
Yes.
only for him to come back. And
Yes, and it shows how unfair a political party can be, because everybody knows that Machina was one that contested for that seat, and so whatever kind of agreement they have on the background, it doesn't matter. What matters is that if somebody presented himself to be a candidate and he emerged, you can't come overnight and send another person's name to INEC.
They could demonstrate the name. And
So from what the political party have done, it means that the party is unfair to its members.
Yes, and even the people of the senatorial district. Yes, that even brings me back to what I say. Now, with what is there, we know that yes, the party may have done all these things to actually give it to the Senate President Ahmed Lawan because of his political influence. He wills. But that is where Nigerians now come in. When they go to the polls on Saturday, instead of voting for APC, we have PDP senatorial candidate. We have NNPP senatorial candidate. We have a Labour Party senatorial candidate. Some of these visible parties have come to join the APC in the presidency. Why not Nigerians imagine that, oh, if you think that you can get that from the party level, we will show you that yes, our vote counts. You understand, Chibuzo, look at what I was saying. It has come, what goes around comes back.
But it comes back to the issue. How much understanding do Nigerians have of what lawmaking is and what all the ideal lawmaker should be? That is one. And two, we are also dealing with politicians who have, for instance, Ahmed Lawan has been there since 1999. He grew from the House of Reps to. So, uprooting somebody like that will be very difficult. It's not going to be easy because he has built a lot of political network, and his political foundation is quite heavy. Yes, there might be some grumbling. There might be grumblings, or there is grumbling as to what has happened with the Machina incident. But whether the people will be conscious enough, this way or that, to decide to change the scenario will be a different matter. But there are two things I just want to point out, because you'll be going into an election and the election soon
in just 2
days. And then the quality of, because I think that is what is quite important at this moment. What is the quality of National Assembly leadership we should be expecting going into this election or going into the next session? And I think that is very important. I'm aware that the permutations are already, playing out within the parties. Some people are already jostling for it within the APC. Others are doing so within the PDP. But I think, it is important that the parties understand that Nigeria cannot have another kind of docile or a yes sir, or if you want, a rubber stamp kind of legislature. Now, I don't mean a legislature that will be confrontational. No. We should be looking at a legislature that has a mind of its own, but not combative. One that is ready to engage the executive in such a way that we produce a productive result, produce the best result, not one that would seek to pull down or just to fight for fighting sake or to be distractive. But again, it's also will be a question of the quality of executive that you have. Because if you have an executive that also, wants to show ego needlessly, you're definitely going to have, and if you have a legislature that is quite robust, you're always going to have that kind of clash. But nothing stops, these two sides from projecting themselves in such a way that even when they come to the sitting table and they have disagreements in ideas, it helps to make for the best options and the best results. And that is why the last experience that produced Saraki was quite interesting. Because many people felt, okay, this is a party thing. It's just within your party. So it should have been easier to resolve whatever internal issues were playing out. But that was a disaster. So at the end of the day, we had a 4-year period that saw the National Assembly and the legislature just fighting at times for needless ego sake. And it cost the country so much time and so much resources, so much distraction. This day they are in court, the next day they are not in court, and it threw the whole political climate in unbalance. So these are things I think the political party, and I'm using political parties now because we are likely going to have a situation where if the executive becomes, in one way, you might have the legislature in another way. Because there will be competitions will be very interesting,
and of course they have enough choices to make.
So it will be very, very interesting. So it comes down to Nigerians paying a bit more attention to what is playing out, but much more the political class being more how do I put it now, more conscientious and more willing to ensure that they produce a window for stability and a proper engagement between the executive and the legislative. Also, I agree with Mr. Iswa, and I'll make this very brief. There is a need to have lawmakers spend longer time in the chambers, if for nothing, for the wealth of experience they bring. Some of these people will become legislative libraries on the go, so that when things play up in the Senate or in the National Assembly and there's a need for quick action, they can tap from their wisdom and intellect on the go to resolve those issues. We have in the US today, lawmakers who have been there for decades. Biden was there for a very long time before he became the vice president. So, and you could see how much stability that would help for the polity as it goes. But again, it's a question of experience. How do you use your experience? You can either use your experience for the benefit of the people or for the benefit of yourself, and that is where the concern.
Thank you very much, Chibuzo. This is where we draw the curtain for today's edition of Nigeria Decide on the big issue in leadership podcast. But if I will just make one point here, you said it, that we need vibrant to be there, and I think they require a long time to be there because of the wealth of experience. But don't forget that Biden, people like Obama, and people talking US started when they were very young. We are not talking of governors who would have served out their time. They are so tired with gray hair, they can't dump themselves in the National Assembly. That is one point you should look at. But time is not on our side to still look at these issues. But the point here and the message here is clear: Nigerians should exercise their franchise, their voting right, constructively in a way that they would choose the kind of lawmakers that would change the tide for better for them. The kind of lawmakers that will stand out for them, if not for anything, especially in this current Naira swap policy that has thrown them off balance, put them in the kind of hardship they have never seen before. They have money in the bank, but they don't have it physically to make use of. Well, Saturday is the day, the presidential and National Assembly polls, and it is left for Nigerians to do the needful. Go to the poll, vote your conscience, and vote for the man you think can represent you perfectly in the federal legislature. Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of Nigeria Decides. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word. Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advertisements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.